Okay. Oh, hi, Dee.
Hi, Dee.
All right, so meeting is being recorded. Here we go. So guidelines for our virtual meetings. This meeting is being recorded. By staying in the meeting, you consent to being recorded. If you would like to speak, raise your hand, either probably electronically, or type an asterisk into the chat if you want to speak. The stacker for this meeting is Win Flint. Will pay attention to order and unmute you in turn. The timekeeper today is Caroline Snow. Caroline, say wave, wave. So be mindful of the time and listen to her if we get over. Use the stop video if you need to take a break from sharing, and start your video when you come back, because we would love to see your beautiful faces. Step up and step back. That basically means if you're taking up too much time or speaking more than others, be mindful and give other people an opportunity to speak. And if you're not speaking enough, we want to hear from you. So, and also please speak slowly on video. Sometimes it's just hard to tell what people are saying if they speak too fast. So our agenda is we're doing brief intros, and then we'll talk about Solidarity Lowell, news and committee updates, and then allied organizational updates. And then we will go into the program for the evening, where Vivian Burchall, who is on here, she can wave, will speak to us, and then Teresa English, and then we will wrap up and talk about our next meeting. So with that, it's time to introduce yourself. And I think
can I interrupt here? I only have six people on my screen, and I think we have more than 6. We have 16. So if you want to speak, you're going to have to put something in the chat, because I can't see you raise your arm in your screen.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing, and then we should be able to show everybody's face on the screen. Hopefully, we'll see. So introduce yourself with your name, your pronouns, where you live, and our question of the day is, what is your favorite winter activity? Stop share. I can stop sharing. Okay, so now we should be able to see everybody. Is that right, Win?
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So I will start. I have it over here. So my name's Lisa. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I live in downtown Lowell, and my favorite winter activity these days is sitting around in my lovely faux fur sweater. When I'm not doing that, let's see. I like watching birds at Plum Island. So, do I call in everybody? Okay, then I will just go left to right. Amy.
Hi, everybody. Amy Baranowski, she, her, hers. I live downtown. Oh boy. Especially post-pandemic, man. I don't get out much. Well, I'm a big fan of a nice warm snuggly blanket and a hot chocolate in the cold weather. So I will pick that.
Okay, Chris.
Oh. Sorry, wasn't prepared. Yes, Chris Afferman, live downtown, she, her, hers. Winter activity, okay. Previously, I used to do a lot of like winter sports, skiing and ice skating and those kinds of things. But obviously haven't done much of that recently. So I'm now with what others are saying, sitting at home, snuggled in a blanket, having a hot beverage, and watching some old reruns.
Awesome. Vivian, you are next.
Hi, excited to be here. My name is Vivian Kopsinger Burchell, but you can just go with Vivian Burchell, candidate for state rep for 10th Middlesex District. And my favorite winter activity is sitting around hot fires and maybe with s'mores.
Okay, Caroline.
Hi, everybody. Caroline, she, her, hers pronouns. I'm part of the coordinating committee, and I live in Centerville. My favorite winter activity is making snow angels, especially when there's a full moon.
Awesome. Win?
Hi, Win Flint. I live in Lowell on Christian Hill. Pronouns she, her. I have two favorite activities. Vivian took my first one. I like the fireplace. And then the other one is I sew. So I really like to sew with wool in the winter time. Wool is a wonderful fabric to sew with.
Awesome. Paul?
Hi, everyone. Paul Godet from the Highlands. He, him pronouns. I'm with Merrimack Valley Project. My favorite winter activity is sitting in front of the TV and making plans for spring.
Awesome. Oh, Joe got back just in time. Joe, it's your turn. Unmute. Say muto, as we say in my Italian groups.
All right. I'm Joe Boyle. I live in the Highlands. Pronouns are he, him. I'm on the coordinating committee. And my favorite wintertime activity ever since Christmas is wearing this hat that my wife Tina knit for me. It is the greatest. And really, you can't wear it any time of the year except in the dead of winter because it is so warm and it's my favorite hat. So wearing the hat is my favorite wintertime activity.
Awesome. All right, Marissa, you are next.
Hi, everyone. Marissa DuPont, she, her pronouns, live in Pawtucketville for now. And my favorite wintertime activity is hiking. My husband and I like to go hiking, preferably in a place that is not like a mountain.
And what is Nikita's favorite wintertime activity?
Nikita likes to sleep on me like this.
All right, Jaron, did I say that right?
It's Jaron actually, but yeah, everyone gets that wrong. Okay, yeah, my name is Jaron. My pronouns is he, him, his. My favorite, I live in Centralville. My favorite wintertime activity, I guess these days, is watching movies. I've been into movies lately. Learning to play songs. Yeah.
Welcome. Welcome. Dee.
Hi, everybody. Dee Halzak, she, her. I live in the acre. My favorite wintertime activity is to bundle up warm and read.
Awesome. John. There's only one of you, so John.
John Grossman, he, him. I live in Pawtucketville. My favorite winter activity is watching NFL football.
Rick, you are next.
Hi, Rick Golden. He, him. I live up on Christian Hill. And my favorite winter activity is complaining.
You're not alone. Awesome. All right. I'm going to skip Corey since you just popped on and come back to you. Ron.
Hi, I'm Ron Peacetree. I live about a block and a half away from Wynn. My pronouns are he, his, him. And my favorite winter activities depend on just how winter it is outside. When it's mild, I love actually being outside. When it's really, really vicious, I prefer to watch through a window and not be anywhere near the cold.
Okay. Linda. Are you there, Linda?
Got it. Sorry.
Yep, there you go.
Linda, she, her, hers. I live in downtown. I've got a gorgeous view of the Merrimack River. I love hot chocolate when I can have it, and I love to watch TV. The Olympics are coming up, so I look forward to that.
Awesome. Thank you. And Jacqueline?
Hello, I am Jacqueline, and I'm in Sacred Heart. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I would say my one event that I'm going with for today is the Lowell Winterfest.
Awesome. Yay. Are we having that this year?
They're supposed to. We'll see if it gets canceled.
All right. All right. So that leaves us with Corey.
Hey everybody, Corey Robinson here. I live in Centerville, and what is the question you're asking everybody?
Favorite winter time activity?
Favorite wintertime activity is trying to travel to somewhere warm.
Awesome. All right. That is everyone. So I will go back to sharing. Thank you everyone for sharing your activity. Okay. There we go. So Solidarity Lowell, I'm going to have to minimize this so I can see things. Solidarity Lowell is a volunteer-based group of community members of Greater Lowell working towards social justice by defending human rights, dignity, and equality of all persons against hate and discrimination. We welcome new members. The Solidarity Lowell Coordinating Committee is your elected team of volunteers running the meetings, organizing events, disseminating relevant news, and sharing calls to action. Some of us introduced ourselves as coordinating committee members because we remembered to, others did not. So raise your hands and wave if you're on the coordinating committee. All right, awesome. Solidarity Lowell is a chapter of Progressive Massachusetts. Progressive Mass is a statewide member-driven grassroots organization committed to fighting for a vision of shared prosperity, racial and social justice, good government, and environmental sustainability in Massachusetts. Yesterday, we had our annual member meeting. We reviewed the previous year and heard from gubernatorial and lieutenant gubernatorial candidates. They are doing a candidate survey now. They will be voting on who to endorse. If you want to be involved in that endorsement process and have a voice in who we endorse as the progressive candidate running for both of those offices, as well as future offices, other offices will be also, they do state rep and state senate candidates as well. So if you want to have a say in who gets endorsed, become a member, and the minimum donation they ask for is a $5 donation. So highly encourage you, if you are not already a member, to join that group. I went way too fast. How'd that happen? Okay. All right, some victories. Community teamwork brought on Saidia. Anybody know how to say that so I don't sound terrible?
I go with Sadia Ahmad.
Sadia Ahmad, thank you. As its new director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Senator Kennedy and several local officials and activists testified in front of the Joint Committee in support of a resolution he filed to signal federal government and constituents that Massachusetts stands with the Cambodian citizens against the country's politically oppressive government and in support of free and fair elections. Rachel Balkovec will manage the Yankees low A team, becoming the first female manager in minor league. Girl Scouts announced their first Black CEO in the organization's 108-year history. Driving Families Forward Coalition has more than 270 organizing organizations, 104 official co-sponsors of the Work and Family Mobility Act, 20 endorsing municipal leaders, and 47 law enforcement endorsements. One I don't see on here, but I think we heard yesterday, is that Progressive Mass is very close to their goal of 3,000. They might actually have met it yesterday while we were on the call, 3,000 people signing up on the Fair Share Amendment. If you have not signed the Fair Share Amendment thing, please do. I'm sure somebody will be talking more about that. Other people having victories they'd like to share?
Just adding to the last point of the 47 law enforcement endorsements, that does include Lowell's own police chief.
Looks like Corey raised his hand.
I didn't know if you were aware, the group was aware, but someone had forwarded me. There's a program the federal government put out, and I think it's like, from what preliminary reading I did, it seems like it's a streamlined process to citizenship for any of our neighbors that are Afghani or Iraqi translator capable.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome.
Others? No more good news? Okay, if you think of something, let us know. Merrimack Valley Interfaith Sanctuary Network. Marissa, do you want to talk about this?
Yes, I do. Okay, so as you may or may not know, we've been helping Marius, who is a Togolese asylum seeker, for, gosh, way too long, it seems like. He does now finally have employment with Comcast. Unfortunately, we're kind of frustrated because they tried to lay him off, basically saying that he wasn't working enough, and that wasn't true. And then there was some issue with his vision. He was having trouble with some of their software, which shouldn't be. I mean, that's a disability issue, and that's illegal to discriminate against someone because of that, but they seem to be. So thankfully, one of the members of the Sanctuary Network advocated for him, because they basically said that they told him he didn't have hours, and then but they hadn't like officially taken him off of the payroll. So she, really advocated for him, and he's back at work, but in a different location because he was working at a Comcast store. And I think he was in like Chelmsford before, and now he's in Westford, something like that, or vice versa, I forget. But anyway, it appears that his job is okay, but we definitely still need to help him out with financial assistance. Initially, we were going to ramp that down at the end of the month. We may need to help him out a little bit longer. We're not sure exactly how long just yet, maybe February, March, but hopefully no longer than that. But if anyone is able to help out, my Cash App and Venmo usernames are on the screen. Or if you want to send me a check, just send me a message and I'll shoot you my address. So that's pretty sure that's it with that for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work that you do on this.
You're welcome.
There we go. All right, allied group updates and announcements. What other groups do we have here?
I'm on my phone, so I can't see how to raise my hand. Can I speak?
Sure.
Is it a good time for the virtual book drive? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. This is it.
Awesome. So the Black Lowell Coalition is having a virtual book drive in honor of Martin Luther King Jr.'s day of service. We understand that day has passed, but just because of COVID and having to keep separation, and because reading has significantly gone up during COVID, which is an awesome thing, we decided to do a virtual book drive. And there really is not a best book to get in the registry that we created. It's up to you whether you want to provide a book that's for a youth, maybe reading at a 3rd, 4th grade level, or if you want to provide a book to an adult, say obtaining becoming, I think her book was Becoming, Michelle Obama's book. These books will be provided to members of the Lowell community, either to daycare centers, to colleges, and or families in our community. And they are very Black affinity specific books. They're for everyone, of course. So if you have the time, if you have the money, please do get a book off the registry. If you have gently used books that you would also like to give, on Bourne Street in Lowell in the Sacred Heart area, you can drop off your book at a Little Free Library. It's the only Little Free Library on the street, so you'll see it. Back to you.
Awesome, thank you. Caroline.
So for GLELA, I have a quick update. That is the Greater Lowell Interfaith Leadership Alliance. And we are working, the executive committee is working on reaching out to other faith organizations, and we're looking to partner. So it could be something as simple as advertising something. It could be coming and virtually visiting a space. Right now we are working on hybrid meetings, and that will be permanent going forward. We'll have hybrid. And so if you know of anybody that is a faith leader, feel free to have them reach out to us. And I can put my email in the chat, and we would love to chat and or meet.
John.
350 Mass of Greater Lowell is spending a lot of time right now trying to get some bills passed in the legislature, including House 3365, which is a bill that would subsidize retrofits for thousands of homes in Massachusetts, including in Lowell, make it affordable and accessible for people to retrofit their homes to make them more energy efficient, reduce their energy bills, and also to transfer from burning fossil fuels at home, such as natural gas, to efficient electric sources of heat that are as efficient as natural gas. And this is the kind of thing we have to do if we're going to meet our greenhouse gas emission goals. So we're trying to get the state to move on that and do it in a fair and equitable way for people who can't afford it. So if you support that, please contact your state representative, urge them to support H3365. Thank you.
Do you know of our 3 reps in the Lowell area where they stand on it?
Yeah, well, we're in the process of knowing that. And some of you have been joining us in meetings with those reps, and we really appreciate the community here helping out with that. In fact, we're meeting with Senator Kennedy tomorrow. We met with Tom Golden, who supports pieces of the bill. But is, I guess, the safest way to say his position on it. But it's not clear that he supports the whole bill, which I wish he would. There's Representative Howard supports the bill, has co-sponsored it. And we're meeting, I believe we'll be meeting in a week or so with Representative Mom.
Good luck with that.
Thank you. February is the month to watch the state legislature because bills have to be reported out of committee. Typically this year, February 3rd is the deadline, although sometimes it gets extended. And bills that don't get reported out of committee are basically history.
Yep. Okay, thanks. Other groups? Paul, go ahead.
I just want to echo what we've said about the Driving Families Forward. Merrimack Valley Project has, in the new year, worked hard to make sure that the delegations from the Merrimack Valley, Haverhill, Lawrence, and Lowell are all on board with that legislation. We asked them to make a formal recommitment, and we got everybody back on board. But the good news is that we also won a new rep who's on. It's not public yet. I can't reveal that, but we added one more rep to the tally, and it's looking very good for this year.
Win.
Sorry, I was half asleep. John had to remind me. We're 350 is doing a climate cafe this Wednesday. A climate cafe is where you can go and you can talk about climate change just as a regular person, ask questions. It's a place to, a lot of times when you talk about climate change, you're just hearing data and information, and sometimes you just want to let it out, and there's nowhere around where you can really talk about climate change. So it's a place to come. And it's this Wednesday, Zoom 7, and I will put the link in chat. Does that cover it, John?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Next, we will move on. The one group we didn't talk about was the election subcommittee part of Solidarity Lowell. We saved it for last because we are going to introduce our topic. So we have some really big elections coming up this year, and as a chapter of Progressive Mass, it's important we help progressive candidates get elected in our area. So we will be coming up with an endorsement process and considering which candidates to endorse and campaigns to support. In addition, something that's not on here that I just thought as I was doing this is we are also working on a city council scorecard, where we will be taking a look at what bills or what motions come up and the city council, how our city councilors vote on them, and so that when it comes time for re-election in 2 years, we can basically report out on and give a grade to how well our counselors are doing. We tried to do it for past ones, but there's just so many years of stuff. And with all the new people who came in, we decided to make sure that we just started this year. If anybody would like to help us to keep that scorecard going, we would love to have your support to help us with that scorecard. The Progressive Mass does do the scorecard at the state level, and they have a really good scorecard system. And we can tell you just by going to their website how well our state reps and our senators are doing regarding all of the most progressive issues that we pay attention to. And it's really, really handy to have when you want to be talking to your state representatives or senators about bills that are coming up. So we felt that having that for Lowell would be very valuable as well. Dee, do you want to add anything else before we move on?
I don't think there's much more to add yet. I mean,
okay,
we're just getting started with the current year, so.
Okay, sounds good. So with that, we would like to introduce 2 candidates today who have already announced their intention to run for state rep. We want to make sure people understand we are not endorsing them. This is their appearance here today is basically just kind of to introduce us to who they are, why they decided to step up and run. Teresa English is the second one we will hear from, and we did actually endorse her 2 years ago in Billerica. But we will be having an endorsement process. So by having Vivian and Teresa here today, it doesn't say that we are definitely endorsing. So, but we do want to introduce you to Vivian, and so I will hand it over to Vivian.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for inviting me to this meeting today. It's so exciting to meet everybody and for an opportunity to introduce myself as a candidate for state rep for 10th Middlesex District. This covers the towns of Acton, Carlisle, part of Concord, which after the redistricting, it was split, and Chelmsford. So who is Vivian? I am a first-generation immigrant from Uganda, born and raised in southwestern Uganda. I am a mother, 2 children, 2 biological children, 1 stepdaughter who lives in England. So my family is as is as mixed as as some of them can, and the kids are biracial, so that there's another layer to it. So we have experiences of this diversity that we talk about when we are addressing, the issues of diversity. So since my whole work life has had brushes with the government. I worked for the government of Uganda. My first job was with the with the legislature, what we call the parliament, mobilizing members of parliament to pass anti-corruption and transparency related legislation. And then I moved on to join the National Planning Authority that was charged with the planning for the country. So thinking of all the critical issues and infrastructures that the country needs, but with also a lens of governance. And my particular role was to assess the governance, how the country was dealing with governance issues, not only in the Ugandan environment, but also sharing best practices and experiences with the other countries in the African Union. So it was an African Union program, identifying, building coalitions with other countries and other departments and agencies to try and address social economic development issues, governance issues, and so economic management. And that gives me also the experience in building coalitions and identifying priorities for the people that I would need as a state representative. So since my announcement, and I moved to Hawaii when I got married to my husband, who I met at a Sustainable Development Convention in Uganda in 2005. It was a wetlands convention by the UN, because at that point I was already working on sustainable development issues. So, but we got married 5 years after we met, and I moved to Hawaii, where he was working in space science. And at that point, I still wanted to work with the communities and government of some level. And I volunteered with the prosecuting attorney's office, where I worked in truancy related projects, because it was one of the key issues that was affecting that local area. And that particular office, the work I was doing was more community development oriented. And the other task that I was given was to propose or research the implementation of an environmental court in Hawaii, because the governor had just signed legislation requesting all counties to start implementing an environmental court, because they realized the urgency to deal with environmental related challenges, especially on an island where people's way of life is really based on the environment. So they were taking these bold steps, but because it was new, wanted to figure out how best it could be implemented, and understanding what workforce will it need for it to be easily implemented. And I also worked on other domestic violence and how diversity can be managed, basically, and how do we promote restorative justice as well. And so restorative justice is a huge part of my life. My mother was a mediator in our local village where I lived, because we were poor. I lived in a slum, and we had to coexist because and learn to resolve conflicts within the area in a way that it was restorative, so that we can still work with our neighbors. We shared the same bathroom, we shared the same everything. We cooked outside with them. So it's a strength that I also bring to this office, the ability to navigate very complex issues in a restorative way. Something that we could all use. And then I moved to the town of Acton, where I live currently, and I still wanted to work with with government in some ways. My first interaction was with a nonprofit in Acton for 1 year, but I was forced out of the workforce because of childcare challenges, and it's so hard to be a new and an immigrant. And I was hearing the story of who is a different kind of immigrant or refugee. But some of the experiences are a little similar. Navigating the workforce is so complex. Starting a family with no social support is so complex. Navigating language barrier. So all those are things that I have really experienced. And when I say that I'm running for office, these are life experiences that are going to be influencing the way I look at legislation, the way I make a decision on what things to fund. So people and quality of life is the center of way I look at legislation. Is it improving everyone's life? Is it promoting equity? Is it promoting, is it fair? And I'll get back to the fair later, but also after I got some relief when my mother came here, I started working for the land use department in the town of Acton, which has given me broad experience in understanding land issues and land use, conservation, zoning, how zoning can be complex and disrupt housing because it's exclusionary. Some of the zoning bylaws are really exclusionary and they do not promote the increase of affordable housing. So I will be certainly paying attention to that and working to figuring out how best we can, work around this kind of what I like to call red tape that was instituted centuries ago or many years ago. So, but I worked at the land use department for 3.5 years. But during that time, I was also, because my job, I love to engage with the community every single day. So, and I love to talk about topical issues. I am not afraid of talking about complex issues. And so I created a TV show to provide a platform for those who didn't have a voice or those who needed a platform to talk about issues that affect us the most. One of my most, what I like to call awakening moment was when I hosted a group after George Floyd, a group of young students from our schools in Acton. They were all Black. They were all from, their parents were first generation immigrants from Africa. So that interview, they pointed out the injustice that they felt or the bias in the school system. And that interview, as it changed the town. It changed the way things were being done at the school level, because many of the administration was mandated to watch it so that they can easily make changes around. And I'm proud to say that the town also started reviewing how the different ways it was doing things. And also the police department, was concerned, and they said to themselves that they needed to change things around. So why do I mention this? That sometimes it takes people who have lived a certain experiences to bring these issues on board for our solution, not necessarily to point out, to point fingers, but to come up with some solutions that will improve everyone's life. So, and so I still host a TV show. I have actually 3 TV shows. I work for Acton TV full time. But about my candidacy, since June, in June, I announced my exploration. And since then, I have met with homeowners, renters, parents, seniors, business owners, local government staff, environmentalists, racial justice groups, LGBT community members, and special education advocates. And I've had these conversations about what our community needs in our district. And through these conversations, I have had echoes of the same American dream that I hope for our community and future generations. A vibrant economy, a clean environment, schools where our diverse children can thrive, and a system that is just and equitable for all. I can tell you, I made a phone call a few days ago, and somebody was afraid that schools are teaching their children history about injustice. How can we be afraid of teaching our children about the history of injustice? It's through this education that we can make a difference, that we can recognize the pain that is caused by certain things and make sure that we commit to not doing it again. So, and we are still, we still have a lot to fight for and fight with, but in a positive way. The word fight does not mean, it's just appreciating or understanding the pain that is caused by history and try to clean it up, whether it's through housing, education inequity, healthcare inequity. And as a representative, these are the principles and values that I will bring to the office to make sure that as we work on legislation that helps everyone, I look at it with our perspective or a lens, an equity lens, and also a global perspective, because we live in a very, in a diversified community right now. It's no longer, homogeneous to a certain group of people. So, and also I just wanted to say that because of my life experience, I know what it's like to fight to be heard. And that's why I've dedicated my life to advancing the progressive values, both in government and in our local community. And if elected, I'll use this experience and determination to stand up for everyone in our district on Beacon Hill. Together, we can make a difference to make healthcare a right. So it's no brainer that I will be supporting Medicare for all, and we need to stand together to combat climate change, make sure that the solutions, also help the marginalized groups, people who are mostly affected by the effects of climate change. We need to invest more in our public education and childcare, and advocate for debt-free college, which I will do as a person who struggled with education and was bailed out by somebody by an organization that saw the value in my education and paid for it. I will fight for debt-free college, because every child deserves, an opportunity to thrive. Because we all know in this country and our state, without an education, someone can't get meaningful employment. But while I fight for debt-free college, I also want to spotlight the vocational training support, because not everyone wants to go to college and not everyone can go to college. So providing alternatives for these people is something that, as a legislator, that I will be paying attention to, in addition to also special education for children who need that extra help. I will be supporting all that. I'll be supporting, or I will support once elected. Of course, we have to work on that part. But so I invite you really to explore vivianbirchall.com, where you can read about some of my journey to this point, my hopes for our district. And I'm energized to work by connecting to voters and also connecting to people who don't have the right to vote yet, because maybe their immigration status does not enable them, but they do have needs because they are part of us. So that is my dream, and I'm hoping, and my vision for my candidacy, and I'm hoping that I could earn your support as a candidate, a progressive candidate for state rep from the 14th Middlesex. And I invite you all to, reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you, from some of the amazing work you've been doing, building these coalitions. Coalition building is something that I believe in, that I've worked with all my life, and I hope to be a partner in this journey with you. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I open it up to questions.
Joe, go ahead.
Where's the 14th Middlesex?
So part of Acton, that is, let me see if I can share the map out here, but it covers part of Acton, part of the whole of Carlisle, part of Chelmsford, and they just, I think, recently finished the precincts. That is 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7 from yes, it's Tammy Govea's district.
Okay.
And in Concord, that has also now been split, and they have now precincts 1, 2, and 5. So yeah, that's the district.
Thank you.
Homa, Corey, Atkin, and now Tammy Govea's district.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask if you knew how the district had changed. So that was going to be one of my questions. So it sounds like it got more Chelmsford and a little more Acton, a little more Concord.
No, less Concord.
Less Concord. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wynn has asked, can you talk about environmental court? Wynn, do you want to just say more about that, or is that enough?
Sure, I can talk. I just wanted to get a link to, now that he mentions about environment, I have a statement on my vision for the environment, which is right there. I have just shared it in the chat. So about this environmental, hi Teresa, I just had to acknowledge that. But about the environmental system, so they recognize that in order to fight polluters, it was great. It would be, it was necessary to have an environmental court that deals with environmental crimes in time, promptly, and in the hope that it would discourage other people from destroying the environment. But because it was a new thing, there are only two places that have an environmental court. The first place is Vermont, the first state in the United States. But these environmental courts are not new to the rest of the world. There are many other countries in the world that have them, but in the United States, we only have Vermont and now Hawaii. So because they were new to Hawaii, they wanted every county to figure out how best to implement this new law in their different counties. But what it required was for a judge who was aware or informed about the environmental issues, because the judges were not educated in environmental issues. So we had, for one to work with a case, an environmental court, you have to have a basic understanding of some of the environmental issues. And the same with everyone who works in the court system. So there was, it's like doing an assessment of what resources we have, what people have in the system that would deal with environmental cases, because some of them were very knowledge-based, understanding the pollution levels, the chemistry. And so there, and I don't know whether that was what you were asking, Win, but if not, please just clarify. I can speak to exactly what you're looking for about environmental courts.
John, go ahead.
Sorry, I appreciate your presentation and looking at your website. Thank you for highlighting climate change as one of the key issues. I have two questions. The first one is, I won't ask you this question, but I feel like asking why anybody with the opportunity to live in Hawaii would move to Massachusetts. But you don't have to answer that. The question I would ask you more seriously is a big cause for conflict for people who want to make progressive change, like all the folks here, is how it gets paid for. And what thoughts do you have, or what about, do you feel the state needs more revenue? And if so, or either way, where do you see the revenue coming from to make the changes that you would like to make?
Thank you for the fantastic question, John. Building coalitions. And this I'm only saying because it's coming from my experience working with projects that have limited state funding. Uganda didn't have much of a budget, when we were dealing with socioeconomic development changes and transformations. But at the same time, as much as there is no money, their need is there, and we have to protect human life. We need healthcare, we need education, we need food. The food crisis, for example, in Massachusetts is simply unacceptable. We are a wealthy country. So a wealthy state. How can we have hundreds of households with food insecurity? How is that possible? So when we really start asking those questions, why is this possible? Then we figure out why it should stop. And here's an example that I like to give. And it's come from observations. If somebody is driving across the street and we see an injured animal, struggling maybe to cross the street or in the side and is really helpless, what is the first instinct that we do? We get out from whatever we're doing. If we're driving, we stop, pick up the phone, call either 911, or we try to get the best help, or call a friend who is experienced with animal, a vet, or somebody who can help that animal. But it is so interesting that sometimes we get so lost and do not look at human beings with the same value. And as a state representative, that is the core of my candidacy. Looking at the person and say, oh my God, there is this person who is having food insecurity because their child is always getting food at the school. But when they go home, what are they going to eat? And how do we call the right people or make the right move to make sure that no child gets hungry at home when they're not at school? Because at school they are maybe have food, but they're getting the free food because they can't afford it. And their homes are having food. We have food banks, to give us an indicator of how many people are struggling to get food. So through my strategy is build coalitions, figure out who is interested, for example, in fighting food insecurity, and then pull resources to address that and work with the state to say, here, we are dealing with this issue. We have maybe 1,000 households in Massachusetts. This takes a month's dedication, vigorous fundraising to supplement the government funds, and we can do this together. And I am the kind of representative who is ready to do that because I've done it before and I will still do it. So when I look at my candidacy or being a representative, it's not just to pass the legislation, but I'm the action person. I like to build these coalitions of government and civil society and the community, and together we'll figure it out and we'll make it work. It just takes the will, and I got the will. Lisa, you're muted.
I couldn't get my mouse to go over to the unmute button. I was like, we have time for one more question, I think. And then Vivian, if there isn't another question, if you could wrap it up with kind of your thoughts on what help you need right now, if there's any resources that you're looking for. I know we haven't started running or you haven't officially started even collecting signatures yet because that time hasn't come up, but definitely this is an important time in anyone's campaign. So just kind of some final words on that. Do we have any other people with raised hands? I don't see any. No, Jaron, I see a question. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I have a question. I know you were mentioning you did like a TV show in Acton with a bunch of kids, right? And that the police had reacted. I was just curious, like, what did they do? What are they actually doing differently? Is it just like lip service? I was just curious about what you were talking about there.
Yeah, what I'm also recognizing along for the years I've lived here and tried to engage with the community is that it's a process and it requires a lot of conversations because like when the young youth pointed out some of the things that made them comfortable, we realized that, say the officers didn't even realize that those actions were making the children comfortable. But then they had another conversation with, I think, the school. I don't want to say that affirmatively because I'm not a spokesperson for any of those entities, and I don't want to misrepresent it or misspeak, but I know that they are, I hosted them as well to talk about, some of the strategies they have for eliminating this. And they said one of them is having an open office to have these open conversations with the youth. And I didn't follow up after that. But there is a beautiful organization, the Acton Boxborough United Way, that I'm a board member of, that has created a new system of conversations called the circles. And this is to bring about these bridges to understand the harm that has been done, which is a form of restorative justice. And I told you in the beginning that I'm a huge advocate for restorative justice, but they've created these circles to understand the harm that is being caused, because as much as sometimes as activists, we understand what some of this harm is, but the wider community, some people don't understand it even. And so we are trying to bring together people of color who can talk about the different actions that cause pain. And not even just people of color, but we will be also, I think, focusing on we've seen the swastikas in schools, why is that still happening? This is 2022, but it's been happening. The last year, we had many incidences of swastikas around our community. And so we need to understand why it's still happening in this year. And with that, what can we do to make it stop? And I am just ready to be a part of these conversations. I've not shied away from being a part of them, because I know it will take all of us to, to understand each other and help each other. I don't know whether that answers your question, but I'm happy to also have more conversations with you. I'll just put in my email, and I could keep you up to date on what is being done at the local level in Acton to help with this. Oops, Gmail.
Right. Thank you, Vivian. This has been great. Love hearing from you. And we look forward to hearing more about your campaign as the months progress.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, you had mentioned that I said about what I needed, but yeah, one is the volunteers for my campaign. I would love to have as many volunteers who believe in this vision, who want to get another progressive voice with a broader, a global perspective to try and add this new voice to Beacon Hill. And also funds. There is no campaign. Mine is as grassroots as it comes, progressive, a grassroots campaign, and every dollar counts. So I'll humbly request you to donate to my campaign, share the word, get more people who can support. And we are going to start collecting signatures. That is the moment to get engaged, to get involved. If I can have as many of you as possible to help me with signature collection, that would be great. And thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Thanks for stopping in. Thank you. And now it's time to introduce Teresa English. You there, Teresa?
Is that my cue?
That's your cue. Yes, absolutely.
All right. So thank you all for being flexible with your timing. I had a trivia fundraiser that I just hopped off of that was a lot of fun. So hopefully some of you will be able to join next time. And I missed sort of the format of what you all are looking for tonight, other than showing up for questions and answers. Do you want me to give my little spiel and then questions? Is that right, Lisa?
Yep. Tell us
All right.
about who you are and
Sure.
why you've decided to run, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Yeah. So my name is Teresa English. I live in Billerica and am running in the 22nd Middlesex. It is currently represented by Mark Lombardo, who stands in opposition to everything that we stand for. I don't want to talk about him because raises my blood pressure a little bit, and I'm working to get him out of the State House. He was largely the reason I started running in 2020. The pandemic affected my family in unique ways. I was teaching high school in Lawrence, which was hit pretty hard by the pandemic and is still really struggling. My husband continues to work as a nurse in Lawrence, and we have 2 kids. One's in high school, one's in middle school. And so the effect of the pandemic on my family has been deeply personal this entire experience. And so I initially ran because there wasn't a Democrat in the race, and I couldn't let the idea of Lombardo just cruising to victory at the State House go unchallenged. To me, that seemed fundamentally wrong on a lot of levels. So I jumped in and I ran a crazy write-in campaign and almost won. Came within 10 points, and I won 2 precincts, which no one has ever, a Democrat hasn't done at all. So with more planning and more time and hopefully more money, I am running a stronger, longer campaign. Got started much earlier this time, focusing on healthcare, education, and the environment. Billerica has a lot of stormwater issues, a lot of flooding, and we have not been able to get any grants from the state for more than 10 years. Lombardo doesn't believe in getting money from the state. He is fundamentally anti-taxes, which means he doesn't want spending to go from the state to smaller communities. So these problems haven't been addressed in a really long time. And Billerica has kind of forgotten what a state rep can do. So we need to have someone at the State House that is engaged in coalition building. Like Vivian said, that is definitely something that I strongly believe in, is we can do more together than we can apart. And regardless of political beliefs, everyone wants help when their houses are flooding, right? You know, the issues in Texas and in Kentucky have shown that even when the most hardcore conservatives need help, they will take help from the federal and local and state governments. And framing government as a negative, I think, has fed into the idea that government is the problem. And part of why I'm running is because government is part of the solution, right? The people who work in civic offices around the Commonwealth and around the country, they're our neighbors, and they're doing the best that they can with the tools that elected officials have given them. As a teacher, I was constantly frustrated in the classroom with the lack of access to resources for my students. We didn't have reliable internet. We couldn't always even get copy paper. And that wasn't a fault of the principals. It was a fault of the budgeting process and the lack of funding that schools like Lawrence High had been given over 20 years. The Student Opportunity Act helped a lot with that and will continue to help. But there are other districts and other issues that need assistance, and writing good laws is something that is desperately needed. We need working people writing the laws that affect us all, because they haven't been working for us. So I am currently the only Democrat running in Billerica, and I'd love to answer any of your questions. And I'll put my link and email in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. All right. Corey has a question for you.
How's it going? Nice to meet you. And hey, I listening to your story, I am inspired. Like you identified a problem and you're going after a solution. So I commend you on that. I was just curious about the community itself in that area. Are you starting to see a little bit more diversification in the Billerica area as a result of the housing markets, or would you say the opposite?
So the recent census numbers showed that my feeling that Billerica has become more diversified is accurate. That is great for people who believe similarly like us, but there is a group of people in Billerica that oppose any new housing because they want to keep Billerica sort of a white working class family. What they don't understand is that Billerica is quickly becoming less working class because of the housing market. It is becoming unsustainable to live here on anything other than a large salary. Houses are selling for $1 million in Billerica, which is just insanity. So we've got to have these conversations about what the root of the problem is, and also call out a lot of the racism and sexism and other issues currently in Billerica. We have a really awful mascot at the high school, and it's hard to say to our students that they shouldn't be racist when we have a racist mascot. So I think all of these conversations are kind of happening all at the same time, and it's part of the process of moving forward, right? We're progressing in a forward direction, but these conversations are uncomfortable, and there hasn't been anyone really pushing the conversations until recently.
Great. I have a question. I don't see anybody else raising their hand, so I will go. So you ran 2 years ago, 18 months ago, and you did for write-in. You actually did pretty well, and for not getting started late. What lessons did you learn from that? What issues came up for you, and what do you think you will do differently now to be a success this time around?
Sure. So my number one issue last time was the lack of name recognition, right? I moved to Billerica in 2017 and started dipping my toes in, through the PTO and through like local initiatives, occasionally attending a Solidarity Lowell meeting. And, that was all I ever really planned on doing. I was a high school teacher, with 2 kids, living a busy life and, just going about my normal life. Switching from that to becoming a candidate required a skill set that I did not have. So in the last 2 years, I've done several trainings through the National Democratic Training Committee. Also, I went through an Emerge boot camp, and I've worked with several other women leaders who have helped with some of, sort of polishing things, right? And becoming a better public speaker than I was last time. Also, I helped to bring back the Billerica Farmers Market, which was really exciting for our town. And that helped a lot with name recognition because for 18 weeks, I was in front of the community every single day talking to people, whether it was vendors or customers or just folks walking by. I'm continuing to do that this year. Somehow I'm going to find the time to do that. And those were the 2 things, right? Name recognition and time. And I have less of a concern about those this time. And I also, I was unable to raise very much money in 2020 because I was still a public employee, and our ethics laws make it really difficult for public employees to fundraise. I am not teaching at Lawrence this year to focus on the campaign. I really want to win, and so I'm putting everything I have into winning this election and representing Billerica at the State House. And then I did see that Rick had his hand up earlier.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you have the numbers on the top of your head, like how many votes did Lombardo have to get to win? Or how many people voted in that election?
So in 2020, there were about 18,000 votes cast for state rep. I got a little over 8,000. He got a little less than 10. And based on the turnout expected for 2022, as long as I get every vote I got last time, I'll win.
Thank you.
John?
I'll ask you the same question I asked Vivian Birchall, which is to do the kind of things we all want to do takes money. Where do you see the money coming from?
So one of the things that the pandemic has shown us is that when the government wants to do something, the money is magically there, right? We wanted to give out stimulus funds. The federal government found the money. Charlie Baker is passing out tests to teachers and schools, and he's finding the money. I support the millionaire's tax. I think it is long past time for people who have financial privileges to, contribute their fair share, right? I can't hire an accountant to do my taxes and avoid every little loophole to save me money, but they can. And that is fundamentally unjust, especially when we have schools without AC, without clean water. You know, there are bubblers in high schools that students can't access because they are turned off because they still have lead pipes, right? The superintendent of Billerica schools has said that he would need $10 million to begin fixing our schools that are falling apart. That money can come from somewhere. We have the money to do it in Massachusetts. It's just a matter of priorities.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
Hi,
Paul.
Teresa. I'm a retired Billerica teacher with American Federation of Teachers, and I would like to know if you've been able to make contact with the Billerica teachers local, because I know they have a committee on political education, which will send funds and endorsements. If you've been able to make contact yet, and if the larger universe of labor support in the Merrimack Valley is available to you.
Yeah, so I have been talking to Beth Contos and Dave Adams, and I was endorsed by both the Lawrence Teachers Union and the Billerica Federation of Teachers in 2020. I will be asking for their endorsement again. We've already started talking about when that process is getting started. When?
Lisa's gonna laugh at me. I'm dying to know, do you remember a couple years ago taking the Unpacking Whiteness class at the church? Okay, okay, I thought so, yeah. So I can just tell everybody here, she takes anti-racism seriously. She took the, was it 7 weeks or 6 weeks class, the 6-week workshop that I was planning on teaching. So, and I thought you had a fascinating backstory. So I'm glad you came to talk to us.
Thank you.
Great way to plug the Unpacking Whiteness workshop there, Win.
It was fantastic. It really was.
Yeah. Win is planning on running it again. We couldn't run it this time because we didn't get enough interest, but yes, while we're here, if there are people interested in attending that, Win is your contact person. She's running it this time around. So that's awesome. Other questions? I'm looking for hands. I don't see any stars in the thing, and I don't see any hands raised. Oh,
Win has her hand up.
Win's back. Go ahead.
Teresa, could you talk more about the flooding issue? I'm with 350 Mass, and we're very concerned about environmental things.
Yeah, sure. So Billerica is part of 3 major watersheds, and the Shawshane River watershed floods South Billerica, like the Pinehurst area, really badly after major storms. One of the things I'm going to do this spring is get my galoshes and go down there and film a lot of videos to really highlight the flooding that is happening that hasn't been addressed. It's just being ignored. It's because a lot of the houses that were built in South Billerica in the 1980s and 1990s, they were below the floodplain, but we didn't know back then. So the houses, the river has risen a little over the years. And so it's going to continue to flood those homes for the foreseeable future. If you look at the FEMA information about those areas, it's repeated claims over and over and over. And we need to be doing more to talk about relocating people. Like, I know that it's not a popular thing to say, but the river is going to do what the river is going to do, right? We have tried for generations to redirect the flow of water away from where people want to live. And it doesn't work very well. And it has a really negative economic impact. So we need to talk about ways to relocate people and businesses that are just going to be flooded year after year.
Thank you.
Okay, if we don't, it doesn't look like we have any more people raising their hands. So Teresa, if you want to just give your last minute, what is it that you could use from us right now? What are you looking for help? And final words.
Sure. Although I do want to give Rick the opportunity to ask another question. I did see his hand pop up real quick.
Okay.
Sorry, I always leave mine in gallery view.
Good for you.
I just want to thank both Teresa and Vivian for running. I'm really impressed with your politics and your positive energy, and I think you're both going to win. I will try to help. And it's been such a depressing winter. I feel more hopeful. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Campaigning is one of the few things that is giving me hope. You know, being out talking to people every day and talking to voters about what's working and, you know, the fights that we have won over the last couple of years is really energizing. It's tough to, you know, when you kind of sink in and think about all the really negative things that are happening right now. But imagining, you know, myself at the State House working on better laws and people like Vivian at the State House, you know, really gives me hope, and I'm optimistic for the future as long as, you know, we're all able to mobilize and get everyone to the polls in November of 22. So what I need right now is help making phone calls. We're going to start canvassing again, whatever that first weekend is in February. We're doing a community canvass and just passing out resources to people who are generally ignored, right? The low propensity voters are who I'm focusing on during the months of February and part of March. We have a town election in Billerica that I'm helping to mobilize people for, because as a state rep, I have to work with the select board. And there are some people who do not need to be on the select board that are running, and I would rather not work with them in the coming years. So that's going to be my focus in spring, and then in the summer it will be hardcore state rep until November. So you can sign up on my website for the newsletters, and we'll keep in touch about the events that are happening.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you both, Vivian and Teresa, for your time. We're glad to have you join our meeting and talk about the upcoming year. It's going to be an exciting year politically. So that's awesome.
It sure is. I'm looking forward to caucusing and get really down in the weeds and nerdy with all of it, but I love it.
Awesome. All right, time to wrap things up. Let me pull up the our slides, and we want to talk about our next meeting. The topic is to be determined, although I think we got a pretty good idea what it might be. So we'd like to find out who can help us with reminder calls and texts next month. It's about 10 texts per person that we ask you to send out. Chris provides the script, and we just basically want to remind everybody. So do we have any volunteers to help us with that?
Okay, let me put in my usual plug that I'm doing. When, I don't know if you're volunteering, but you're on the list of people to be volunteered anyway. To those who have not done the reminder texts before, it's real easy. Like Lisa said, I'm providing the script, I'm sending a script, I'm sending a link to a list of the people with their phone numbers where the script has to be texted to. So all you need really is a phone that can text and that can access that link, and then you just copy over that script like 9 or 10 times and do send, and you're done. No thinking required. So that's my plug for that. So anybody who would like to help out with that, you can let us know now. We usually do that in the week before the meeting. You all might have got the texts already the last several times. Or you can, John Grossman, thank you very much. Or you can email me or contact me at any time between now and the next meeting, at solidaritylowell.com.
Thank you. All right. And let's see, what's next? Join us online, if you haven't already, our Facebook group, Solidarity Lowell. You'll see public events, photos, but you'll miss out on discussions and member-only events. So the Facebook group is the other one, and that has access to all of our events. We also have a Slack channel and our website where we have all of our calendar events are posted there. And then we are also on Instagram and Twitter. While I'm here, I'll also put in a plug for joining Progressive Mass. Again, remember, if you want to have a vote in endorsement at the Progressive Mass level, you do need to join Progressive Mass, become a member, and for being able to have a vote on the endorsement process for Solidarity Lowell, you need to be a regular member, having attended. Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot again. What's the rule? She keeps track of everybody. So do you know what the rule? Remember the rule?
The rule for eligible to vote?
Eligible for to vote for endorsements.
Endorsement. Yes. You have to have attended 3 or more meetings over the past 12 months. Past 12 months being counting backwards from the moment when we sent out the ballots.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, that's it. Thank you all so much. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody's faces. Hello, faces. So thank you all for attending, and I hope that you enjoy this.